John Carter stared at the 7-foot-tall purple woman sitting across from him in his small apartment kitchen. She had 4 arms, a ridge of spikes along her scalp and eyes that shifted between gold and emerald, depending on the light. Her name was Xylara, and she was apparently the supreme sovereign of the Nolaxian Star Empire. She was also apparently his wife. John rubbed his temples, trying to process how his life had changed so dramatically in just 24 hours. Before yesterday, he was just a regular guy working at a coffee shop in Portland. Now he was married to an alien queen. It started when John found a strange glowing crystal in the park while walking home from work. He picked it up thinking it might make a nice paperweight. When he got home, he placed it on his coffee table and went to make dinner. The crystal started pulsing with light growing brighter until it exploded in a flash. A portal opened in his living room, and Xylara stepped through with 2 guards. What happened? Next was a blur of confusion. The guards scanned him with strange devices while Xylara spoke rapidly in a musical language. When the translator finally kicked in, John learned that by touching the royal crystal and bringing it into his dwelling, he had completed the ancient Nolaxian marriage ritual. According to Nolaxian law, they were now bound as life partners. The guards left through the portal, promising to return the next day. John and Xylara were left alone to get acquainted. Now they sat, awkwardly at his kitchen table. So John said, "You rule an entire empire?" Xylara nodded her head, spikes shifting like a mohawk. "Yes, the Nolaxian Star Empire spans 3 galaxies. We are the most technologically advanced civilization in this sector of the universe. And now I'm married to you." John said, still struggling with the concept. Xylara tilted her head. "The crystal chose you. It is never wrong. My people believe that the crystal seeks out mates who will bring strength and new perspective to the royal bloodline. You must possess qualities I need." John laughed bitterly. "I'm a barista. I make coffee for a living. I rent this 1-room apartment. I drive a car that's older than me. What qualities could I possibly have that would benefit a queen?" Xylara reached across the table with her upper right hand. Her skin felt surprisingly warm and soft. Despite her alien appearance, there was something beautiful about her. "Humans are fascinating," she said. "Our scientists have studied your species for centuries. You adapt quickly. You overcome impossible odds. You feel deeply. You create art and music that can move even the most logical beings to emotion. These qualities are rare in the universe." John looked at her hand resting on his. The contrast of her purple skin against his tan was striking. "What happens now?" he asked. Xylara withdrew her hand. "I must return to my empire soon, but our laws require that we spend 1 orbital cycle together before I can return to my duties. That means I will stay here for 28 of your Earth days. Then you must decide whether to return with me to Nolaxia as my consort, or remain here. The choice will be yours. I will not force you." John stared at her. "I need a drink." He walked to his small refrigerator and pulled out a beer. He offered one to Xylara, who studied it curiously before accepting. She sniffed it, then took a small sip. Her face scrunched up in disgust. "This is what humans consider pleasurable?" she asked, placing the bottle on the table. John couldn't help but smile. "It helps take the edge off. You know, like when you accidentally marry an alien queen." The first night was awkward. John offered Xylara his bed while he took the couch. He could hardly sleep, knowing there was a 7-foot-tall alien in the next room, his alien wife. He stared at the ceiling, wondering if he was having some kind of mental breakdown. The next morning he woke to find Xylara studying his bookshelf. She wore the same strange, shimmering garment as yesterday. It seemed to flow around her like liquid metal. "You read paper books," she said, noticing he was awake. "This is primitive but charming." John sat up, running a hand through his messy hair. "Yeah. Well, not all of us have space empires and magic crystals." He immediately regretted his tone. Xylara didn't ask for this situation any more than he did. "Sorry," he said, I don't know how to process all this." Xylara nodded. "I understand. This is disorienting for me as well. I was not expecting the crystal to choose an off-worlder. Our mating customs have remained unchanged for millennia, but this is unprecedented." John stood up and stretched. So what do we do now? Lara replaced the book she was holding. I suggest we learn about each other. That is the purpose of the bonding. Period. John nodded. That makes sense. I guess I should go to work, though. I have a shift in an hour. Lara looked concerned. You wish to continue your labor duties during our bonding period? John laughed. I need to pay rent. So yeah, Lara looked confused. For a moment, then nodded. I will accompany you. I wish to observe human commerce. John tried to imagine bringing the alien queen to the coffee shop. His boss would have a heart attack. Maybe not such a good idea, he said. People here don't know about aliens. It might cause a panic. Lara considered this. Can I not disguise myself? John looked at her doubtfully. You are 7 feet tall with purple skin, 4 arms and head spikes. I don't think a hat and sunglasses are going to cut it. Lara smiled, revealing teeth that glowed slightly. She touched a small device on her wrist and her appearance shimmered. A moment later, she looked completely human. Her height reduced to about 5'10", her skin a warm tan color, her extra arms gone. Her hair was now dark and flowing, hiding any trace of spikes. Only her unusual gold-green eyes remained. John stared. Is that what? How it's a simple holographic projection, she explained. Nothing impressive, just basic Nolaxian technology. Will this suffice? John nodded, speechless. He called his boss Cindy, claiming a family emergency. She was understanding and gave him the week off. John felt guilty about the lie, but what could he say? The truth was far too unbelievable. The next few days were strange beyond words. Lara was endlessly curious. She asked questions about everything from breakfast cereal to baseball. She was particularly fascinated by music and spent hours listening to John's record collection. Her favorite was jazz. She said the improvisational nature of it reminded her of Nolaxian battle hymns, though. John found that hard to believe. For her part, Lara taught John about her world. Nolaxi was a planet with 3 moons and rings, like Saturn. The Nolaxians had mastered space travel 10,000 years ago. There, society had no poverty, no disease and no war. At least not for centuries. But they had problems too, or people have become stagnant. Lara explained as they walked through a park one evening. She wore her human disguise but occasionally forgot and gestured with arms that weren't visible. We have everything we could want, but we create nothing new. Our art is technical but lacks soul. Our music is mathematically perfect, but emotionless. Is that why? The crystal chose me. John asked. Someone who makes minimum wage but plays guitar badly. Lara smiled. Her teeth glowed slightly through the hologram. Precisely. Our genetic scientists believe that introducing human DNA into the royal line will bring creativity and passion back to our people. John stopped, walking. Wait. You want to have kids? Lara looked away. Our species are compatible with some genetic modification. John sat on a bench trying to process this new information. So I'm basically a breeding stud. Lara sat beside him. I did not choose this, John. The crystal did. But I have grown to appreciate its wisdom. You are kind. You see beauty in simple things. You laugh. You feel. I have never met anyone like you. John looked at her. The disguise was good. But now that he knew what to look for, he could see hints of the real Lara beneath. The way she held herself, the slight tilt of her head, the unusual color of her eyes. Maybe the crystal knows what it's doing after all, he said quietly. On the 7th day of their strange honeymoon, John took Lara to his favorite spot in the city, a small hill overlooking the lights of Portland. They sat on a bench watching the sunset. This reminds me of home. Lara said, Nolaxi has 3 suns. The sunsets last for hours, and the colors are beyond description. John looked at her. Do you miss it? Lara nodded. My duties. My responsibilities. I have billions of beings depending on me. John felt small, suddenly insignificant in the face of her reality. How does someone like him matter to someone who ruled galaxies? Why? He asked. Why would the crystal pick me of all people? Lara turned to him, studying his face. The crystal sees what we cannot. It sees potential futures, pathways of possibility. It chose you because in you, it saw something essential. Something my people have lost what hope, she said simply. The ability to dream of better things even when surrounded by imperfection. You humans live such brief lives in such challenging conditions, yet you create beauty. You imagine futures that don't exist, and then you build them, you hope, and that is what my people need most. As the second week of their bonding period began, John started to feel more comfortable around Zylara. She no longer seemed so alien to him. Despite her extraordinary origins, there was something deeply relatable about her. She carried tremendous responsibility yet found joy in simple things. Her curiosity was boundless, her intelligence sharp but not cold. John realized he was beginning to like her. Really like her. They were walking through a farmer's market, Zylara in her human disguise marveling at the variety of earth fruits when John's phone rang. It was Cindy, his boss, wanting to know when he'd be back. John hesitated, looking at Zylara, who was examining a pineapple with intense fascination. Next week, he told Cindy, family stuff is taking longer than expected. After he hung up, Zylara gave him a curious look. You lied about your return? John shrugged. I have more important things going on right now. Zylara smiled, and John felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. That evening, they sat on John's small balcony watching the stars appear. Zylara pointed to various points of light. My empire extends beyond that cluster, she said. And there. That system has 15 planets, 5 of them inhabited by different species, all part of the Nolaxian Alliance. John tried to comprehend the scale of what she was describing. It made him dizzy. What do you actually do? John asked. As queen, what does your day look like? Zylara considered the question. I oversee the High Council, which represents all member worlds. I negotiate treaties with new species. I solve disputes between planetary governors. I review scientific advances to ensure they benefit all our people. I command our defense forces. I sounds. Busy, John interrupted. Zylara nodded. It is. There is little time for anything else. No friends. No fun. No life outside being queen. Zylara was quiet for a moment. The position of sovereign is one of service, not privilege. My personal desires are secondary to the needs of my people. That sounds lonely, John said, without thinking. Zylara looked at him with surprise, then her expression softened. It is, she admitted. I have advisors, allies, political supporters, but friends. Real connection. That is rare for someone in my position. Everyone wants something from the Queen. John reached out and took her hand. I don't want anything from you. Zylara looked at their joined hands, her holographic human skin against his real one. Don't you? She asked softly. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Then Zylara's communication device chimed. She reluctantly pulled her hand away and spoke rapidly in her musical language. The hologram flickered briefly, revealing her true form. Is everything okay? John asked when she finished. Zylara nodded, but her expression was troubled. There is unrest in the outer systems. Reports of rebellion. A faction that opposes my rule. They call themselves the Purists. They believe Nolaxian blood should remain pure, not diluted by off-worlders. Are they dangerous? Zylara hesitated. They have been peaceful until now, vocal but not violent. This message suggests they may be arming themselves. John felt a chill. What does that mean for us? Zylara touched the device on her wrist, returning fully to her alien form in the privacy of John's apartment. My guards will increase security. I may need to cut our bonding period short if the situation worsens. John felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. Oh, I see. Zylara moved closer to him. I do not wish to leave early, John, but my first responsibility must be to my people. John nodded. Of course I understand. The next day, John's apartment was suddenly filled with Nolaxian security personnel. They were all tall like Zylara, though with varying skin tones ranging from deep purple to pale blue. They set up strange devices around the apartment perimeter while Zylara conferred with a serious-looking male Nolaxian whose ridges were arranged in an elaborate pattern that John assumed indicated rank. When they finished, Sylara approached. John Commander Vrex will oversee our security for the remainder of the bonding period, she explained. There is no immediate danger, but caution is prudent. John looked around at the alien security team, feeling overwhelmed. Is this really necessary? Sylara nodded. The crystal that brought us together is one of our most sacred artifacts. The purists would consider its choice of you sacrilege. They would seek to prevent any continuation of our bond. John swallowed hard. So these rebels, they want to kill. Maxillara placed a hand on his shoulder. They would have to get through me first, and that John Carter is not easily done. Despite her reassurance, the mood had changed. The carefree exploration of their first week together was overshadowed by an unspoken, tension guards accompanied them everywhere. Sylara spent hours each day in communication with her council. John began to understand the weight she carried. He had thought being queen was about power and privilege, but now he saw it was about responsibility and sacrifice. On the 12th night of their bonding period, John woke to find Sylara standing by the window, her true form silhouetted against the city lights, her 4 hands clasped behind her back, her posture rigid with tension. Can't sleep, he asked. Sitting up, Sylara turned. The purists have attacked one of our outposts. Vrex believes they may have tracked the crystal to Earth. John felt fear spike through him. What does that mean? It means we are no longer safe here. Sylara said. We must accelerate. Our timetable. Sylara moved to sit beside him on the bed. I must return to Nolaxi soon, 3 days at most. And you, John Carter, must decide if you will come with me. John ran a hand through his hair. How can I decide something like that? I barely know you. We come from completely different worlds. Sylara reached out, touching his face gently with one of her upper hands. I know it is unfair to ask, but the crystal is never wrong. It saw something between us. Something important. My people need what humanity has. Your passion, your creativity, your ability to see beyond what is, to what could be, and what about what I need? John asked. What about my life here? Sylara withdrew her hand. I cannot promise you will be happy on Nolaxi. I can only promise you will be important. Your presence would change the future of my people. John looked away. What if I stay? Sylara was quiet for a long moment. Then our bond would be broken. The crystal would choose another. Perhaps in 1,000 years I would return. Alone, John looked up at her. Would you be okay with that? Sylara met his gaze, her eyes glowing softly in the darkness. It is not about what I want. It is about what must be. But if it was about what you want, what? Then Sylara looked down at her 4 hands. I would want you to choose me. She said so softly he barely heard it. But I would understand if you did not. John reached out and took one of her hands. It felt strange with its extra joint and slightly cooler temperature. But it also felt right somehow. Need time to think, Sylara nodded. You have 3 days. The next morning, John woke to an empty apartment. A note from Sylara explained she was meeting with her security team. She would return by evening. John felt relieved to have some time alone to process everything. He walked to his favorite coffee shop, ironically, as a customer this time. He ordered his usual and sat by the window watching normal human life unfold around him. People going to work, checking their phones, laughing with friends, all completely unaware that the ruler of a vast alien empire was walking among them. Would he really give all this up? The familiar, the comfortable. Could he abandon his entire world for a woman he barely knew? As he sipped his coffee, his phone rang. It was Cindy again. His boss sounded annoyed this time, demanding to know exactly when he'd be back. John realized he had no good answer. I'm not sure I can come back, he said finally. I might be moving. Moving. Cindy sounded surprised. Where far away, John said, unable to explain further. After hanging up, John walked through the city, seeing it with new eyes. He passed the apartment he'd lived in for 3 years, the coffee shop he'd worked at for 5, the park where he occasionally played guitar on weekends. None of it seemed particularly special or worth clinging to. But it was his life. The only one he knew. When he returned to his apartment, Zylara was there. She had removed her holographic disguise. Her 7-foot frame seemed too large for his small, living space. Her purple skin glowed softly in the afternoon light. John looked at her, really looked at her. He saw beyond the alien features now, saw the person beneath, the intelligence in her eyes, the subtle expressions that crossed her face, the way she held herself with dignity but not arrogance. "I spent the day thinking about what I would be giving up if I left with you," he said. Zylara nodded, understanding. "But then I realized something I don't actually have that much to give up. My job is just a job. My apartment is just walls. My life here is comfortable but not meaningful." "Not really," Zylara moved closer to him. "And what would you gain?" John smiled. "Everything I never imagined. Adventure. A chance to see things no human has ever seen. Chance to be part of something bigger than myself. A chance to matter. And me." Zylara asked, her voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. "Would you gain me as well?" John reached for her hands, all 4 of them. "I think I would. And I think that might be the most important part." Zylara leaned down, her face close to his. "I have lived for over a century. John Carter. I have ruled an empire for decades. I have seen wonders that would blind you. Yet in these 2 weeks you have shown me things I never knew existed. Simple joys, genuine laughter, the beauty of imperfection." John felt his heart racing. "Is this crazy?" he asked. "Are we crazy?" Zylara smiled. "Perhaps. But sometimes the most important choices seem the most irrational." John felt fear clench his stomach. "The purists are coming here." Now Zylara nodded grimly, summoning her guards with a quick command into her communication device. "We must leave immediately. Our ship can extract us from the roof in 20 minutes. Can you gather what you need in that time?" John looked around his apartment. Everything he owned, everything that defined his life on Earth. Suddenly, none of it seemed important. "I just need a few things," he said. Grabbing a backpack, he stuffed in some photos of his parents now deceased, his favorite book, his grandfather's watch, and a small notebook filled with songs he'd written but never played for anyone. The guards surrounded them as they moved to the stairwell leading to the roof. John's neighbors peeked out of their apartments, eyes wide at the sight of 7-foot-tall purple aliens in what appeared to be battle armor, almost to the roof. John's phone rang. He glanced at it. Cindy again. He silenced it without answering. This life was already behind him on the roof. The night sky was clear and star-filled. No sign yet of either Zylaris' rescue ship or the approaching Purist forces. Commander Vrex set up a perimeter, his soldiers positioning themselves strategically around the rooftop. He approached, Zylara speaking rapidly in their language John couldn't understand. Zylara turned to John. "The Purists have disabled our nearest transport. We must wait for another ship. It will take longer, perhaps an hour." John looked nervously at the sky. "Will they get here before then?" The Purists, Zylara touched a device on her wrist. A holographic display appeared showing multiple moving lights approaching their position. "It will be very close," she admitted. John felt strangely calm despite the danger. "If I had stayed at work today, I would be closing the coffee shop right now," he said. "Instead, I'm on a rooftop waiting for alien rebels to attack me." Zylara gave him a curious look. "Do you regret your choice?" John shook his head. "Not for a second." A soldier called out, pointing to the sky. A small craft appeared hovering silently. Its design was angular, predatory. Commander Virex barked orders, his soldiers raising weapons. "Not ours," Zylara said. "They found us first." The craft circled the building, once, then hovered. Directly above them, a beam of light shot down and 3 figures materialized on the roof. They were Nolaxian like Zylara, but their skin was pale blue, almost white. Their head ridges were sharper, more pronounced. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. The tallest stepped forward. John recognized the symbols on his armor as similar to Zylara's, but inverted, somehow twisted, high sovereign. The purist leader said, his translator making his musical language sound flat and emotionless. You dishonor our people. With this abomination, Xylara stepped in front of John, her posture regal defiant. The crystal has chosen Cousin Malar. The ancient laws are clear. Even you must respect them. The one called Malar hissed. My great-grandmother should never have allowed off-worlders into our empire. Now you would pollute the royal bloodline itself with this. He gestured at John with disgust. This primitive creature. John felt a surge of anger. Hey, him standing right here. Malar ignored him. Your father would be ashamed. Xylara, he fought to preserve our culture, our purity. And now his daughter would breed with a lesser species. Xylara's guards moved closer, weapons ready. Commander. Vrex stood at her side, tense, prepared. My father, Xylara said, her voice cold, understood. What you never have. Strength comes from diversity, not from stagnation. Our empire expanded across galaxies precisely because we embraced other worlds, other peoples. What you call purity, I call weakness. Malar sneered. You speak of strength. This creature could not survive a day on Nolaxi without technology to protect him. The gravity alone would crush his fragile bones. Actually, John said, unable to help himself. Humans are incredibly adaptable. We can survive in environments from Arctic cold to desert heat. We evolved to persistence, hunt prey by outlasting them. We're tougher than we look. The purist leader finally looked directly at John, his red eyes narrowing. You speak boldly for a slave. I'm not a slave, John said. I'm her husband. Malar laughed, the translation barely capturing the cruelty in the sound. You think you understand our ways, you think the crystal ritual makes you worthy. You know nothing. Xylara raised her hand, commanding silence both from Malar and from her own guards, who were growing restless. The crystal has chosen, she said firmly. The bond is legitimate under our most sacred laws. Challenge it, and you challenge the foundation of our society itself. Is that your intention, cousin? To dismantle everything our people have built over millennia? Malar hesitated, uncertainty flashing across his face for the first time. John watched the exchange, fascinated despite the danger. There were layers of politics and history here he didn't understand. But he recognized the fundamental conflict: tradition versus change, stagnation versus growth, fear versus hope. Suddenly the sky lit up as a massive ship appeared, dwarfing the purest craft. It hovered silently, its hull shimmering with iridescent patterns. Malar looked up, his expression hardening. This is not over, Xylara. The council will hear of this. The people will not accept a human consort. Xylara stood tall, all four arms positioned in what John assumed was a formal posture. Let them judge according to law and tradition, I fear. No verdict that honors our true heritage. The purists retreated back to their craft, disappearing in the same beam of light that had delivered them. As soon as they were gone, Commander Vrex urged them toward the center of the roof. A moment later, John felt a strange tingling sensation as a beam of golden light surrounded him and Xylara. The roof disappeared and they were standing in a vast chamber, its walls curved and glowing with soft light. Nolaxian crew members bowed deeply as Xylara entered, John following close behind. Welcome aboard the royal vessel Luminara, Xylara said to John. Her entire demeanor had shifted. She stood straighter, her movements more formal, her voice carrying a subtle tone of command. This will be our home for the journey. To Nolaxi, John looked around in awe. The scale of the ship was incredible, the technology beyond anything he could have imagined, and everyone was looking at him, studying him, judging him. Just act natural, he told himself. Then almost laughed at the absurdity. What exactly was natural about this situation? A Nolaxian female approached. She was shorter than Xylara, her skin a deep indigo, her head ridges arranged in an intricate pattern. She bowed to Xylara, then to John's, surprised to him as well. Sovereign, the ship is prepared for departure. The council has been informed of the incident with the purists. They await your report. Thank you, Xylara said. Please escort Consort John to his quarters. He will need time to adjust before we enter hyperspace consort. John felt strange hearing himself referred to that way. but he followed the Nolaxian named Tella through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. The walls pulsed with subtle light patterns that somehow indicated directions without any visible signs. Tella led him to a large chamber, the door sliding open automatically. The room was enormous, at least 4 times the size of his entire apartment. The walls were curved, the ceiling high. The furnishings seemed to grow organically. From the floor, strange shapes that somehow managed to be both alien and inviting. "These are your temporary quarters during the journey," she explained. "The consort's permanent residence on Nolaxi is still being prepared." John walked around the room, touching surfaces that felt like nothing he'd ever experienced before, somewhere between silk and water. "Thank you," he said, not knowing what else to say. Tella tilted her head, studying him. "Is it true? You were chosen by the crystal?" John nodded. "That seems to be what happened, though I still don't fully understand it." "Remarkable," Tella said. "The crystal has not chosen an off-worlder in over 50,000 years. You must possess extraordinary qualities." John laughed. "I really don't. I'm just a guy who makes coffee for a living." Tella smiled, revealing those glowing teeth that all Nolaxians seem to have. "Perhaps that is precisely what the crystal saw in you. Humility, an understanding of service, a connection to simple pleasures. These are qualities our people have forgotten in our pursuit of perfection." Before John could respond, the door opened and Zalera entered. She had changed into elaborate robes that flowed around her like living water. Jewels adorned her head ridges, catching the light. Tella bowed and quickly left them alone. "I apologize for the formality," John, Zalera said once they were alone. "We must observe certain protocols aboard the royal vessel." John gestured around the room. "This is all a bit overwhelming." Zalera moved closer. "The ship will enter hyperspace soon. You should prepare yourself. The transition can be disorienting for those not accustomed to it." "How do I prepare exactly?" John asked. Zalera guided him to what appeared to be a seating area, though the furniture moved subtly to accommodate them. "Lie back," she said. "Close your eyes. Focus on your breathing." John did as instructed, feeling strangely vulnerable, yet trusting. He felt Zalera's hand cool against his forehead. "I will help guide you through it," she said softly. Her voice took on a melodic quality as she began to sing in her native language. The sounds washed over him, soothing, calming. John felt the subtle shift as the massive ship began to move. He kept his eyes closed, focusing on Zalera's voice, on her touch. Then, a strange sensation swept through him, as if his body was simultaneously stretching and compressing. His stomach lurched, his mind spun, colors and patterns exploded behind his closed eyelids. Then suddenly stillness. He opened his eyes to find Zalera, watching him, concern evident in her expression. "Are you all right?" she asked. The days aboard the Luminara passed in a blur of intense learning. John spent hours each day with his head connected to a strange device that Zalera called a knowledge matrix. It transferred basic information directly into his mind. Not deep understanding, but surface facts. Language, protocol, history, geography. The process left him exhausted with pounding headaches, but the results were remarkable. He found himself suddenly able to recognize and pronounce Nolaxian words, understand their numbering system, and recall key historical events. When not connected to the Matrix, John explored the ship, always accompanied by guards who watched him with undisguised curiosity. The Luminara was massive, housing over 5,000 crew members. Each section had its own purpose, its own ecosystem, its own culture. Zalera was often busy with royal duties, communicating with her council, preparing for their arrival, dealing with the political fallout of her unconventional marriage. But she made time each evening to dine with John in his quarters. During these private moments, the formality between them softened. They talked about their childhoods, their hopes, their fears. Zalera shared stories of growing up as the heir to an empire. The pressure, the isolation, the rare moments of joy. John told her about his simpler life, his dreams of becoming a musician that never quite materialized, his parents who had died too young, the quiet loneliness that had defined his adult years. On the 4th night of their journey. After a particularly grueling session with the Knowledge Matrix, John found himself standing before a large viewing portal, watching the swirling dimensional space. Zylara joined him, standing close enough that he could feel the subtle coolness that radiated from her skin. "Tomorrow we will begin preparation for your formal presentation to the council," she said. "You will need to memorize the ancient pledges." John nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility growing heavier. "What exactly will my role be when we get to Nolaxi? I mean, what does a consort actually do?" Zylara was quiet for a moment. "Traditionally, the royal consort manages the imperial household, oversees certain charitable endeavors, serves as a diplomatic representative when needed. But your position will be unique. You will be the first human consort. Our people will look to you as a bridge between worlds." John turned to face her. "Will I have any real power? Any say in how things are run?" Zylara studied him. "The crystal chose you for a reason, John. Perhaps it saw in you qualities that would complement my own. Perhaps it saw that your human perspective is exactly what our empire needs. Your voice will be heard. I promise you that." John looked back to the portal, the swirling patterns somehow calming. "I keep thinking about what that purist guy said, Malar. That I'm weak, that I can't survive on your world." Zylara moved closer. "There are technological accommodations for your physiology. The gravity on Nolaxi is nearly twice that of Earth, the atmospheric composition different, the temperature higher. You will need assistance at first, but your body will adapt gradually." John laughed softly. "Great. So I'll be the weak human who needs special help just to breathe. That will really impress everyone." Zylara placed a hand on his shoulder. "The strength the purists value is merely physical. It is limited, short-sighted. Humanity survived on your world without our technology, without our advantages. You built civilizations, with nothing but your minds and your hands. That resilience, that adaptability, that is true strength. And it is what my people have forgotten." John wanted to believe her, to believe he had something valuable to offer. But doubt lingered. That night, he dreamed of Earth. Of his apartment, his job, his routine life. It all seemed distant, already fading like a photograph left too long in the sun. He woke disoriented momentarily, forgetting where he was until the subtle hum of the ship reminded him on. The fifth day, Zylara introduced him to the Imperial tailor, a thin Nolaxian with 6 arms instead of 4, each moving with precise grace as they measured John for his formal attire. The tailor spoke rapidly to Zylara in their native language. John understood fragments thanks to the knowledge matrix. Something about materials and symbolism. Zylara turned to John. "The royal consort's garments are traditionally made from xylith, a fabric harvested from the sacred pools of Nolaxi. They represent the bonding of body and spirit, the merging of individual and empire." John stood awkwardly as the tailor worked, the Nolaxian occasionally making sounds of either interest or concern. John wasn't sure. "Which will I be expected to wear Nolaxian clothing all the time?" he asked. "Or can I sometimes wear jeans?" Zylara smiled. "For formal functions you must observe protocol, but in private you may dress as you wish. We have synthesized earth fabrics for your comfort." John was touched by this consideration. This whole situation was overwhelming, but Zylara consistently showed thoughtfulness, making his transition easier in countless small ways. That evening, they attended a formal dinner with the ship's senior officers. John wore a simple Nolaxian tunic, his first experience with their clothing. It felt strange against his skin, almost alive, somehow responding to his body temperature, keeping him perfectly comfortable. The dinner was a test run for the formal events to come. The officers treating him with the deference due to the royal consort while clearly evaluating his every move. John did his best to remember the protocols he'd learned, which utensils to use, how to address each rank, the proper toasts and responses. He made mistakes. Of course, he did. But to his surprise, the Nolaxians seemed more intrigued than offended by his errors. One elderly officer even commented that John's fresh perspective was refreshing after centuries of rigid formality. After the dinner, as they walked back to John's quarters, Xylara took his hand, a public gesture of affection that caused nearby crew members to quickly avert their eyes. "You did well," she said. He could hear the smile in her voice. "I used the wrong hand gesture for the loyalty toast," John said. "I probably insulted half the table." Xylara laughed softly. "They found it endearing. The fact that you attempted our customs at all means more than perfect execution." John stopped walking, turning to face her. "Do you really think this can work, this situation?" Xylara looked at him, her eyes shifting between emerald and gold. "I believe the crystal chose wisely. I believe you bring qualities my people need. I believe—" She paused, searching for words. "I believe I am fortunate, John Carter. That of all the beings in the universe, the crystal brought me to you." John felt something shift between them. The political arrangement, the strange circumstance of their meeting, fading against something else, something growing, something real. That night they stayed, up late talking about everything and nothing, the small details of their lives, the fears they rarely voiced, the hopes they barely acknowledged. At some point their hands found each other, fingers intertwined, alien and human. On the final day of their journey, Xylara came to John's quarters early, a team of attendants following her, carrying elaborate garments and strange devices. "We will arrive at Nolaxi in 6 hours, she explained. "We must prepare you." What followed was an intensive transformation. His body was treated with a protective coating nearly invisible, but designed to help him adjust to Nolaxian atmosphere. His formal attire was complex layers of living fabric that moved subtly with each breath. The attendants painted symbolic patterns on his exposed skin using ink that seemed to glow from within. John hardly recognized himself in the reflection they showed him. He looked regal, alien in a way. Despite his human features, the patterns on his skin echoed Xylara's head ridges, a visible symbol of their connection. When the preparations were complete, Xylara dismissed the attendants. She stood before him in her full imperial regalia, her 7-foot frame adorned with symbols of power, her 4 arms bearing ancient insignia, her head, ridges crowned with living metal that shifted and flowed. John stared at her. She was breathtaking, powerful, otherworldly. Yet somehow in the past weeks she had become familiar, the person he felt closest to in the universe. "I forget sometimes that you are a queen," he said. "You are so much more than your title." Xylara smiled, her eyes soft. "When I am with you, I feel like more than a queen. I feel like myself." Gentle chimes sounded throughout the ship. "It is time," Xylara said. "We are approaching Nolaxi." They moved to the grand viewing chamber, a vast space at the front of the ship with transparent walls that currently showed only the swirling patterns of dimensional space. The ship's officers and dignitaries gathered around them, all in formal attire, all watching John with undisguised interest. Commander Vrex approached, bowing deeply to them both. "Sovereign Consort, we exit dimensional space in 2 minutes." John felt his heart pounding, the reality of what was happening finally hitting him fully. He was about to see an alien world. His new home. Xylara took his hand, sensing his anxiety. "Remember to breathe," she said softly. "The first view can be overwhelming." A countdown appeared in glowing symbols above the viewport. John recognized the Nolaxian numerals, now understanding as they ticked down toward the moment of transition. 3, 2, 1. The swirling patterns vanished, replaced by a view so spectacular, John gasped. Nolaxi hung before them, a massive planet, its surface a swirl of deep purples, vibrant blues, and golden landmasses. 3 suns of different sizes and colors illuminated it from various angles, creating an ever-shifting pattern of light and shadow. Rings similar to Saturn's, but with iridescent colors, encircled the planet. 3 moons of different sizes orbited at different distances, each with its own unique coloration. It was beyond beautiful. It was alien, magical, impossible. John walked beside Xylara through the crystal chamber, trying to maintain the dignified posture he'd practiced. The eyes of thousands of Nolaxians followed their every move, some curious, some hopeful, some clearly hostile. The raised platform at the center of the chamber held a single object, a smaller version of the crystal that had started this whole journey when John found it in the park. It pulsed with inner light, the colors shifting and changing. Zylara ascended the steps to the platform. John, following her presence, seemed to fill the vast space, commanding attention, respect, awe. She raised all 4 arms in a formal gesture, and the chamber fell into perfect silence. "People of Nolaxi," she said, her voice carrying effortlessly, "the sacred crystal has chosen. For the first time in 50,000 years, it has selected one not of our world. This is not a mistake. This is not a flaw. This is the wisdom of our ancestors, guiding us toward a new future." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others looking skeptical. Zylara continued. "For 10,000 years we have ruled the stars. Our empire has grown, our technology advanced. Yet we have lost something essential, something the crystal sees, something it seeks to restore through this union." Turn, gesturing for John to step forward. "I present to you, John Carter of Earth, chosen by the crystal, bonded to the throne. United with me in the ancient tradition." John stepped forward, feeling impossibly small before the alien crowd. He had no formal training for this, no preparation beyond the crash course of the past few days. But something inside him knew this moment mattered. Not just for him, but for Zylara, for her people perhaps, even for Earth someday. He bowed in the Nolaxian style he had practiced, the exact angle, the precise duration. Then straightened, meeting the gaze of the assembled crowd. "People of Nolaxi," he said, his voice steadier than he expected. "I come before you not as a conqueror, not as a diplomat, but as one chosen by your most sacred tradition. I do not pretend to understand fully why the crystal selected me. I know only that I stand ready to serve, to learn, to grow, alongside you." He paused, seeing mixed reactions in the crowd. On Earth, we have a saying: the strongest trees are those that bend with the wind but do not break. Change is not weakness. Adaptation is not surrender. It is the ultimate strength, the ability to become more than you were without losing what makes you who you are. A section of the crowd nodded. Others remained stone-faced. Elder Karan stepped onto the platform. As tradition demands, the consort must undergo the trials. 3 tests to prove worthiness, 3 challenges to demonstrate value to our people. These trials will begin at the rising of the primary sun tomorrow. John felt Zylara's tension, though her expression remained serene. Until then, the elder continued. "Sovereign Zylara and consort, John will retire to the imperial quarters. The people will prepare for the trials. The formal reception ended. John and Zylara were escorted through a series of crystal corridors, each more elaborate than the last, until they reached what was clearly Zylara's private domain. The walls here were softer, somehow warmer, the lighting gentler, the space enormous, but somehow intimate. When the attendants had left, closing the massive doors behind them, Zylara finally relaxed her formal posture, her shoulders dropping slightly, her head tilting forward. "Sorry, John," she said. "I should have told you about the trials." John paced the room, which was larger than his entire apartment building on Earth. "What exactly are these trials? What am I supposed to do?" Zylara moved to what appeared to be a seating area, though the furniture was unlike anything on Earth. Organic shapes that adjusted as they sat. "The trials are ancient tradition. 3 tests to prove a consort's worth. The trial of body to demonstrate physical capability. The trial of mind to demonstrate wisdom and intellect. The trial of spirit to demonstrate character and integrity." John laughed bitterly. "So I have to outfight, outthink, and outnoble aliens who evolved on a higher gravity planet with technological and physical advantages I can't possibly match. That seems fair." Zylara reached for his hand. "The trials are not designed for you to fail, John. They are designed to reveal your strengths, your human strengths, the qualities the crystal saw in you." John wasn't convinced. "What happens if I fail?" Zylara was quiet for a moment. "If you fail any trial, our bond would be considered invalid. You would be returned to Earth. The crystal would be reset to seek another in 1,000 years, and the purists would win." John said. Zylara nodded. They would use your failure to argue that off-worlders can never truly integrate into our society, that our empire should close its borders, retreat into isolation, focus on purity rather than growth. John stood moving to a window that overlooked the city. The view was breathtaking. The crystal spire they were in cast rainbow light across buildings that seemed to grow rather than being built, the three suns creating an ever-changing pattern of light and shadow, the alien landscape both beautiful and terrifying. Just one person, he said. How can the future of an entire empire depend on whether I pass some tests? Zylara joined him at the window. It is not about the tests themselves, it is about what you represent. Change evolution. The idea that strength comes from diversity, not from isolation. You are a symbol. John, as much as I am. John turned to her. How do I prepare? What can I do? Lara took his hands. I will help you. But first, you must rest. The journey, the transition to our atmosphere, the gravity. These all take a toll on your body. As if on cue, John felt a wave of exhaustion hit him. The higher gravity of Nolaxi had been pulling at him since they landed, making every movement a greater effort. His muscles ached. His head pounded. Zylara guided him to another room, a sleeping chamber, with a strange-looking bed that seemed to hover above the floor. Rest, she said. The adaptations we gave you on the ship will help your body adjust. But sleep is essential. John lay down the bed, conforming perfectly to his body, somehow both supporting and weightless. Despite his anxiety, his eyes grew heavy as he drifted toward sleep. He felt Zylara's cool hand on his forehead. I believe in you, John Carter, she whispered. The last thing he heard before sleep claimed him. He woke to golden light streaming through crystal walls. For a moment he was disoriented, then remembered everything. The ship Nolaxi. The trials. He sat up surprised to find his body felt better. The crushing weight of the higher gravity still present but somehow more manageable. His lungs no longer burning. With each breath, the room adjusted around him, lighting shifting to a more comfortable level. A panel on the wall displayed symbols he now recognized as Nolaxian time. The primary sun had just risen. The trials would begin soon. A door slid open and Zylara entered. She wore simpler attire than the formal regalia of yesterday, but still looked every inch a queen. Her eyes brightened when she saw him awake. You look better, she said. The medical adaptations are working. Your body is adjusting faster than expected. John stood testing his balance, finding it surprisingly good. Are you allowed to help me prepare for these trials? Or is that cheating? Zylara smiled. There are no rules against preparation. The trials themselves must be faced alone, but guidance is permitted. Even expected over a breakfast of strange but delicious Nolaxian foods. Zylara explained each trial in greater detail. The trial of body is not about raw strength, she explained. It is about adaptability, endurance, the ability to overcome physical limitations. The judges will expect different capabilities from you than from a Nolaxian. They will look for human physical traits that might benefit our people. And what would those be exactly? John asked. Zylara considered. Fine. Motor control for one. Your species has remarkable dexterity endurance. Your bodies can continue functioning long after ours would require rest, and your adaptability to different environments is unmatched in our experience. John nodded, feeling slightly more confident. What about the trial of mind? This test examines not just intelligence but wisdom. Zylara explained. The ability to see connections others miss, to find solutions where none seem possible. Humans excel at lateral thinking, at making intuitive leaps. Your sciences advance differently than ours, but no less impressively. And the trial of spirit? John asked. That sounds the vaguest. Zylara nodded. This is perhaps the most important trial. It tests character integrity, the essence of who you are. Nolaxians value harmony, balance, the good of the whole over individual desires. The judges will seek to understand your core values, your moral compass. John absorbed this information, trying to prepare mentally for what was to come. But how do you test someone's spirit? Xylera stood. You will see. Soon it is time. The trials were held in a vast arena at the base of the crystal spire. Thousands of Nolaxians filled the viewing areas, their colors and sizes creating a living tapestry. John stood in a preparation chamber. His heart-pounding Zilara had been escorted to the royal viewing box. Unable to help him now, Elder Karan entered the chamber, his ancient eyes studying John. The purists grow stronger each day. Human, their leader, Malar, has royal blood, though distant. He believes he should rule, not Zilara. He believes our people should remain pure, untainted by outside influence. John met the elder's gaze. Why are you telling me this? Karan moved closer. I have served 6 sovereigns in my long life. I have seen our empire grow and change. I have witnessed the wisdom of the crystal time, and again I do not know why it chose you, but I respect its decision. John was surprised. Thank you. The elder nodded. The trials will reveal your worth. Human. Do not attempt to be Nolaxian, be human. That is what the crystal chose, that is what we need.